they're all getting Social Security benefits. It's a lie. A total, absolute lie.
A few moments later.
The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, DOGE says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office.
So I know this is just absolutely going to shock everyone. None of us could have seen this coming, but it is currently Sunday, April 13th, 2025, and the Democrats are still throwing a hissy fit over DOGE, and they are still talking about the rise of oligarchy in America, because we certainly have not heard that one before.
This great country of ours is moving very rapidly in the direction of oligarchy. The United States of America today is increasingly becoming an oligarchy. More and more moving toward an oligarchy. We are moving in the direction of oligarchy. We will move even more rapidly in the direction of an oligarchy. This great country is evolving into an oligarchic society. It is called oligarchy, and that is the system we are rapidly moving toward. This is a budget that moves our country rapidly into the direction of oligarchy. A handful of billionaires are moving this entire planet toward an oligarchic society.
Start off with the bad news, which is pretty bad. And that is that under Donald Trump, this country is hurtling rapidly toward oligarchy.
Well, shout out to Maze for that clip, because that's just absolutely amazing. So, Bernie, is the oligarchy here yet or what? Because according to you, we've been rapidly moving towards oligarchy since 1993. So is it here yet? You know, I don't know. It's taking longer than my Uber Eats driver. I'm not exactly sure. But anyways, as you could expect, the same exact moral panic, like I said, is continuing to go on. You see this week from Senator Chuck Schumer. They are still pushing the big lie. So you got Bernie going out saying that America, tomorrow we're going to wake up in an oligarchy. I've been saying this for the past 30 years. It reminds me a lot of Greta Thunberg, honestly. But anyways, Chuck Schumer here very similarly is saying DOGE is sabotaging Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And what exactly does this mean? Well, it certainly cannot mean that anyone is actually touching specifically Social Security or Medicare, because not only has the administration made it clear no one is coming for your Social Security, but on top of that, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't even have the constitutional authority to take away Social Security on their own if they tried. Here's the real issue, though. What has DOGE, Elon Musk, and the Trump administration been looking into when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, and even to an extent Medicaid and certain welfare benefits that we'll talk about later in the video? Well, you can see here the response from Elon Musk. Incredibly perfect here, right? Chuck, I'm starting to think you're getting a piece of the action with the government fraud. But no, that couldn't possibly be the reason, could it? Well, that's a fantastic question. Because when Democrats say, and they keep hearing this, right? The MAGA Republicans are taking away your Social Security and Medicare. If you're a law-abiding U.S. citizen who actually is entitled to receive it because you paid into it, doesn't that beg the necessary question, who is you, right? Your Social Security, who exactly are the Democrats speaking to there? Because it's certainly not the normal Americans who deserve it. What is it with the Democrats and having something of a, I guess you could say political constituency that apparently is massively engaged in Social Security and potential Medicare fraud? Well, we're going to tell you all about that in today's video, because while the Democrats continue to divert and distract with this line that like, hey, we're taking away, Elon and the MAGA Republicans are taking away your Social Security. Well, interesting news, interesting updates on that front, because it turns out it's not you, the average American, who's being targeted here. Anyways, we'll get into it. But first, folks, do us a favor. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You subscribing is the best way to support our work and ensure that we can keep doing these videos. And with that said, let's start here, okay? Let's try to hear out, I guess, the opposition in good faith. I would like to know, What exactly is their big, gigantic opposition to literally Elon and DOGE and the Trump administration just looking into Social Security, right? Just trying to investigate potential fraud, where, well, apparently here is the answer to that question from Bernie Sanders himself at a town hall he did just this week.
Elon Musk could make to the federal government that you would be...
I think I don't think he can do it. But do I think as a nation, as a Congress, as an administration, we got to sit down and say, how do we break through the bureaucracy and make the government more efficient? Yes. But I want to give you one example. And this worries me a whole lot. Trump gets up in his State of the Union, and many of you have heard it. And he says, oh, my goodness, millions and millions of senior citizens, 150 years age, 200 years of age. Remember that? Oh, they're all getting Social Security benefits. It's a lie. A total, absolute lie.
So as you have seen repeatedly, that is basically the response from Bernie Sanders. Oh, that's a lie. That's misinformation. That's not happening. Massive fraud and abuse is not going on within Social Security, Medicare, or our entitlement programs. To which I have, I guess, two important necessary questions. And keep in mind, this is not just Bernie Sanders we are talking about. Basically, the entire Democrat Party is saying the same thing. Okay, first of all, when it comes to fraud, how can you know if you don't look? Isn't that kind of obvious? I don't know, at least I would think. And notice here now how the Democrats have kind of changed their messaging on the issue, because notice how they always qualify it with that beginning statement saying, look, everyone agrees that there's massive fraud and waste in the government, and maybe there is some inefficiency, but the way Elon is doing it is wrong. And okay, but you're admitting that there is waste and abuse, so why exactly shouldn't we look for it? That's the question I have for Democrats. Why shouldn't you want to get rid of it? Because that's the thing. Democrats are admitting that it's real. They're saying it's exaggerated, but they're admitting it's real. But they're mad that we're looking into it and trying to do something about it, as Elon says there, right? Do they have a vested interest in protecting it or something? I mean, what exactly is going on there? That's question number one, I guess, I have for Bernie Sanders here. Question number two, though, is that if, as Bernie Sanders here says, 99% of Social Security benefits are indeed earned properly by the people receiving them, then what's your opposition to the audit? Why are you so mad that we're looking into it, right? Notice how that's the panic that ensues. We're just opening the door. We're just, taking the covers off, seeing what's underneath. No, don't do that. They're taking away your Social Security. No, everyone, look, panic. We got to go protest in the street, as you've seen they've been doing, right? By the way, more protests in the street over this past weekend from AOC, as you can see right here, right? Isn't that response just very interesting? Isn't it kind of strange almost, right? They're claiming they have nothing to hide, but when you actually ask questions and uncover things, no, the senior citizens, everyone's right. That's kind of the reaction of like a kid who claims they didn't get into the cookie jar, but they know they did, and they're like, no, but don't look, right? As a parent, when that happens, I remember that when I was a kid, right? You could do the, no, I didn't, but then you're like, don't look in here, don't look in here. That's what they're doing. Here's the reason why. Is because over the past week, DOGE, which has already found a lot of interesting and key things so far, just found what may be considered waste, abuse, or fraud. I don't know. Like you could honestly classify this as either one, because the Biden administration basically did this knowingly and willingly. But as you can see, it was revealed just this week that DOGE found that apparently under his administration, millions of illegals were given Social Security numbers over the past 4 years, with about 1.3 million receiving Medicaid. Millions of others apparently may have been potentially registered to vote. I don't know. Take a listen for yourself.
Fox to reveal what's really going on. DOGE exposed our immigration asylum disaster. That was the tip of the iceberg. Now, here's the story. DOGE has found that immigration gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a Social Security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, DOGE says 270,000 new aliens were issued Social Security numbers, 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. DOGE also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses, some registered to vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying. He's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
Isn't that so interesting? And doesn't that reveal a lot about why there is such a targeted and organized smear campaign against Elon Musk? After all, we were told so often, right? So where did this all begin, by the way? This actually began before Elon even got involved in the Trump campaign back in 2024. For the entire cycle, Donald Trump was saying that illegal aliens are receiving Social Security. Now, what was the Democrat response? What? That's crazy. Illegal aliens don't even have Social Security numbers because apparently fraud doesn't exist. Apparently people don't do that. But no, illegal aliens don't have Social Security numbers, so they can't be receiving it. Nobody's taking away your benefits or entitlements. But as you just revealed, not only is there maybe potential fraud, no, the Biden administration was literally just giving out Social Security numbers to illegal aliens. Oh, and by the way, not only were they set up to receive Social Security and Medicare, they're even receiving Medicaid, which is the welfare one for poor people. So in other words, right, say whatever you will about Medicaid. I think even among American citizens, there's massive waste, fraud, and abuse that goes on there. But it's so bad that we're even going out and giving it to illegal aliens. And isn't that so interesting? Now, do you see the picture that I brought up earlier, right? When Democrats say they're taking away your Social Security, understand the audience there, right? Who are they speaking to? They're not speaking to you, right? They're speaking to, I guess, what we will call their political constituency. And by the way, apparently this is not the only entitlement abuse that was uncovered by DOGE in the past week. As you can see here, an initial survey of unemployment insurance claims. So now we're talking about like unemployment and welfare, okay? Social Security and Medicare are one thing. Now let's also talk about the welfare state, though, because Democrats are claiming we're cutting the welfare state. And by the way, I'm happy to own that because I think there are massive problems within it. But nonetheless, I think we should all be able to agree welfare, if it exists, and to the extent that it does, should go to American citizens. And by the way, people who are actually unemployed and need it or whatever, okay? Here you go, though. An initial survey of unemployment insurance claims since 2020 has revealed the following. 24.5 thousand people over 115 years old claimed $59 million in benefits. You wonder why the national debt is so high, by the way? It's like, because America has this great paradox. Where the national debt is high, there's massive problems in that regard. But even like the social services that, we claim that, the Democrats claim need to be better. The social services in America are not even good. That's the thing. That's the great paradox of the whole thing. You're a country with relatively, frankly, America still does have relatively high taxes. We have a ridiculous national debt, as everyone knows. But social services suck. Infrastructure sucks. Healthcare still sucks. It's like all of the I guess so-called benefits that you would think you should be able to get out of a country that's spending a lot of money, has a high deficit, has high taxes. You don't get any of that. Why is that? Well, there's a number of reasons, but some of it has to do with stuff like this right here, right? Gee, I wonder why we can't fund unemployment insurance for people who need it. Well, you have 24,000 people over 115 years old claiming it. No wonder the national debt is so high. 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old claimed $254 million in benefits, and 9.7 thousand people with birth dates over 15 years in the future. What? I don't even know how that's possible. Claimed $69 million in benefits. In one case, someone with a birthday in 2154 claimed $41,000. By the way, guys, again, this should not be exactly all that surprising, because if you know anything about unemployment and the way that's massively abused, okay? You want to talk about abuse? This is it right here. Everyone knows this, by the way. Welfare, both federal and state in some cases, But welfare and Medicaid are two of the most abused systems in existence. And again, these should be common sense things where everyone agrees, right? These are not legitimate unemployment or welfare claims. We should all support them looking into this and ultimately getting rid of these people. But I once again reiterate this very important question. When it comes to the Democrats, why are they against this? Because that's their constituency, right? The people who are committing the unemployment fraud, those are the people ultimately supporting the Democrat Party. And that's who the Democrats are out to defend the so-called rights of, right? Not you, the average ordinary American who's actually working or paying taxes or has a legitimate claim to anything. Heck, even in the case of the ordinary American out there who is like actually paying into Social Security, for instance. But we'll talk about that in a second. First, here was that announcement from the Trump Labor Secretary on apparently what they have found in terms of the fraud within unemployment insurance.
Unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs unemployment insurance fraud. That trust needs to be whole for the American people. When we need it for who deserves it. That's not what we're seeing. And the numbers that we saw last night, again, exposed by our partners at DOGE, at the Department of Labor. Since 2020, over $400 million of payments have gone out already. And when you hear these numbers, apparently in the United States, we have over almost 25,000 people who are over 115 years old who are collecting $59 million that we have sent out to people. Talk about fraudulent behavior. Mr. President, 28,000 people between 1 and 5 years old have collected fraudulent payments at the tune of $254 million has gone out. And lastly, 10,000 people who have not been born yet, 15 years into the future, $69 million, and they haven't even been born yet. In one case, they will be born 129 years from now. The United States government sent them $41,000, and they're not born yet. So, under the Department of Labor, those are the things that we're uncovering. I couldn't be more honored to tell the American people that we're bringing back their dollars and we're saving them and returning them to the United States Treasury.
It's just so ridiculous and unbelievable. Although, I mean, everyone knows how much unemployment is massively abused. So I guess in that regard, it's incredibly believable, but still pretty ridiculous to say the least. But anyways, here is the overall point that I want people to keep in mind. And again, probably answering the question here as to why Democrats are so afraid of us uncovering and exposing all of this is we're ultimately saving all of these programs. That's the truth. What we're doing right now will save all of our both like pension programs and potentially even our welfare programs, ironically. And let's be clear about that, by the way. I just want to point this out. There is a distinction, okay? So, Social Security and Medicare are not the same thing as unemployment and Medicaid. They're completely different. Social Security and Medicare are the pension programs for seniors after the seniors spend their lifetime paying into those benefits, right? So they're owed that money, right? That's why when people say Trump is taking away Social Security, it's like, how? It's a self-fulfilling fund. Now, it's a fund that is struggling and running out of a lot of money, not because of Trump or anything, but just simply because of, demographics in America, all that. But still, nonetheless, that's Social Security and Medicare. Medicaid and unemployment is just welfare, right? That's just government handouts to people who claim they need it or whatever. So when the Democrats say they're taking away Medicare and Medicaid, incredibly manipulative because they're not actually the same thing. But nonetheless, the principle I would argue here that is uniting the two is the same, which is that largely speaking, in both cases, you have programs that are struggling to sustain and pay for themselves. Although let's mainly talk about Social Security and Medicare because I'm going to assume those are the ones that affect the most people who are potentially watching this video. But nonetheless, despite all the Democrat panic about it, here is the simple reality. Okay. And this, by the way, has nothing to do with Donald Trump or like any Republican or frankly, any Democrat. It's the way the system is set up itself. Again, combined with America's aging population, demographics, all of that, that Social Security is a system that will indeed run out of money. According to the SSA themselves, by the year 2035, Social Security is only going to be able to pay out 75% of the entitlements that everyone is owed there. And again, this is an objective reality and truth. And raising the income tax, for instance, on the 1% is not going to change that because Social Security and Medicare are not funded by income tax. They're funded by payroll and self-employment tax. But nonetheless, here is the thing. I'm not even saying that getting rid of all the fraud and abuse will save Social Security, because I think it has massive problems across the board. However, it seems like a pretty easy starting point, does it not? If you really want to save Social Security benefits for people, and keep in mind, it's a system that pays for itself through payroll and employment taxes. So it is a limited fund of money. The common sense answer is you have a limited fund of money and it's starting to run out of money, is make sure, first of all, that all the money is going into the right place, which means every time you get rid of fraud within Social Security, that is more money within the Social Security fund that therefore now can go and pay out to a senior citizen who actually deserves it, which is interesting, right?
The actions that we're taking with the support of the president and the support of the agencies is what will save Medicare, what will save Social Security.
Yeah.
And because if the country goes insolvent, if all the money is just spent on paying interest on debt, there's no money left for anything.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm doing this, is because I was looking at the big picture here, and it's like, man, our debt's getting out of control. So a country is no different from a person. Country overspends, country goes bankrupt. Same as a person who overspends goes bankrupt. So it's not like optional to solve these things. It's essential.
Well, with that said, isn't it interesting that the Democrat Party that is constantly running around campaigning on Republicans want to take away your Social Security, Democrats are somehow, they never explain how, but they claim they're going to protect and save your Social Security. They're so against looking for fraud and actually cutting down on the waste and abuse in it, so that way the money can be saved for people who actually need it, considering that, again, the system itself is, mathematically speaking, running out of money. Well, there's two very simple answers to that proposition, which is, first and foremost, like Elon Musk and I am pointing out here, Democrats have a vested interest in protecting the fraud, probably because, again, a lot of their voters are the very people engaged in this stuff. But I think issue number two, and this is something people also need to keep in mind, is it maybe possible that Democrats almost have a vested interest in this, right? Like they have a political strategy where they want to hold Social Security hostage, basically allow it to bankrupt itself, and then, I don't know, 10 years down the line, do some type of political stunt where they blame the Republicans and try to get the senior citizens to go vote for the Democrats because, oh, look, Social Security's out of money. This is all the fault of the whatever we're calling the MAGA Republicans in 10 years. Vote for us. We're going to save it. It seems to me that's actually exactly what's going on here. Because, again, they have no solution. They have no plan to address the actual problem with Social Security. And when it comes to even illegal aliens, right? Not only are they opposed to potentially taking off illegal aliens and dead people off of the Social Security rolls, they're literally actively going out, the party who's claiming to protect Social Security, actively going out and handing out like a free giveaway, like a Mr. Beast giveaway, Social Security numbers to all these illegal aliens, as Trump has been saying, right? Which will ultimately do what? Suck up so much money that the system can no longer pay for itself. I don't know. It almost seems to me, guys, okay, not to get too conspiratorial here, but that's exactly what the Democrats want to do. They're holding this issue hostage for a very specific reason, and that's frankly why we should not let them, right? The messaging on this has to be very clear. No, we're going after the fraud because we are protecting your Social Security, okay? And this is not an issue of like, oh, well, no one is going to take it away. No, when other people who don't deserve it take it, they're actively taking away your Social Security. And in that sense, as Elon Musk says, and he was so widely criticized for, but ultimately, yeah, what's going on in Social Security is something of a Ponzi scheme. It really is, especially for someone my age. You know, I'm 21 years old. I still have to pay self-employment tax for no reason when I know the math on this issue. My generation is never going to see Social Security, likely never a dime of Social Security. But instead of just being honest with people our age and saying, look, the government can't pay for this anymore. You're on your own. We're going to cut the payroll tax and let you handle your own retirement. No. They gaslight us. They say, oh, it's going to be around. Everyone knows it's not. But we still have to continue paying those taxes that I'm never going to see, right? I'm never going to see my own Social Security. But what is that Social Security going to, right? Largely speaking, you know, first of all, the older generation that, needs the money to get their own Social Security because, again, it's literally bankrupting itself. But also on top of that, forget even the boomer generation, just straight up dead people and illegal aliens are receiving this money that I am paying into being told, oh, that's for me later down the line. No, that's not going to happen. So yeah, for my generation, it is a Ponzi scheme. And that's the way I frankly see it. Okay. And this is insane. This is ridiculous. And frankly, it's especially infuriating when the Democrats still do the moral panic, completely lying and gaslighting about it when it's like, no, the system is in a serious crisis. They're trying to fix it. Democrats want to take away your Social Security. That is the truth. They want it to go bankrupt. They're playing this game for political purposes. That is very important for people to understand. So frankly, that should be the new campaign slogan. Democrats want to take away your Social Security because that is the literal, honest truth. That is objectively true. Because when you're against fraud and when you're against any reform that might potentially save the system, you want it to crash. That's the only solution. That's the only answer that you guys are proposing. And yeah, so more taxes for people like younger than 40, I should say, who will never see that money. Just straight up embezzling our own money. Okay, thank you for that. All right, with that said though, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.